This young boy, let's call him Gabriel, might be one of the most resourceful tricksters I've ever come across. Let me tell you his story. Gabriel hails from Colombia, and up until now, his life has been difficult. But he's about to take matters into his own hands and do whatever it takes to make a better life. One day, Gabriel decides to head to the airport, hoping to catch a flight to Miami. The problem is, he doesn't have the money for a plane ticket. But that doesn't stop him. He sneaks onto the tarmac, manages to climb aboard a cargo plane, and hides himself in the wheel well. He holds on tight as the plane takes off, flying for about 3 hours from Cali, Colombia to Miami, Florida. When the plane touches down, Gabriel allegedly falls from the wheel well, unconscious and disoriented. Airport staff eventually find him, lying on the tarmac. He tells them his name isn't Gabriel, but Carlos. He claims he's 13 years old and that his parents are deceased. He fled Colombia to find a new life in America. His heart-wrenching story spreads through the local media, and a police officer named Lozano, hearing the news on his radio, is deeply moved. He decides to volunteer as Gabriel's temporary guardian, while the authorities figure out what to do with him. Gabriel moves in with Lozano and his family. For the first time, he's living comfortably. He's no longer struggling. The middle-class lifestyle feels like a dream to him. He tells himself that one day he'll have the same nice things. But soon, things start to go missing around the house. Gabriel begins stealing small items. He's also been disappearing for days at a time, which makes Lozano and his wife begin to question his story. Then, the Colombian embassy calls with some surprising news. Gabriel's real name isn't Carlos. It's Gabriel. He isn't 13, he's 17. His parents are alive and well in Colombia, and the story about him hiding in the wheel well of the plane? That was a lie. It turns out he likely traveled inside the cargo hold, not the wheel well. It turns out Gabriel had been scamming his way to the U.S. for a better life. Authorities immediately detain him and deport him back to Colombia. But this isn't the end for Gabriel. He's had a taste of a much better life. And now he'll stop at nothing to get back to it. Over the next few years, he tries to trick his way back into the U.S. and other countries using fake IDs and aliases, only to get caught and deported time after time. During all of this, Gabriel is crafting the perfect con. Here's how it works. He dresses like a wealthy businessman and checks into luxury hotels. He spends time in the lobby, chatting with staff, to ensure they notice him as a guest. He memorizes other guests' names and room numbers. Next, Gabriel approaches the front desk, pretending to be one of those guests. He claims he lost his room key, and since the staff has seen him around, they let him into the room. Once inside, he takes whatever he can find: money, jewelry, credit cards, anything that belongs to the guest. But it doesn't stop there. Gabriel calls the hotel security desk, telling them he's locked out of his safe. Security arrives to open the safe, thinking it's his room. Naturally, they don't question anything, and Gabriel takes everything from the safe before leaving the hotel. Gabriel repeats this con at hotel after hotel, collecting vast amounts of stolen goods. But eventually in London, he's caught using a stolen credit card. Gabriel is prepared for this. He quickly gives the police a fake name and skips bail. A year later, he's back in London, pulling the same scam. This time he's arrested again, but with a new fake name and ID. He ends up with a small fine, as they don't realize he's the same person they arrested last year. Gabriel keeps up the cycle, using fake names and IDs to rob hotels across the world. A few years later, he returns to London again, hitting 4 more hotels and walking away with over $100,000 worth of cash and jewelry. Detectives Smith and Clark start putting the pieces together, connecting these robberies back to Gabriel. They're closing in on him. Meanwhile, Gabriel is still living the high life with his stolen wealth. But it's never enough. He keeps going, always craving more. A couple of years later, Gabriel makes his way to Las Vegas, where he pulls off his most infamous scam yet, stealing $350,000 worth of cash and jewelry. One of the rooms he robs allegedly belongs to the famous singer Celine Dion. A year later, Gabriel is back in London, hitting even more hotels. But one night, Detective Smith is out walking, heading home from a bar, when he spots someone leaving a supermarket. Smith recognized Gabriel from mugshots, and by sheer coincidence, they cross paths. Smith doesn't hesitate. He arrests Gabriel and takes him to trial, where he's sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. But Gabriel is no rookie. 3 months into his sentence, he manages to charm the prison guards into letting him go out for a dentist appointment. And, of course, he escapes. Somehow, he makes his way to Dublin, where he steals a credit card and pulls off his famous hotel scam again. Irish detective O'Neill is hot on his trail. After reviewing CCTV footage, O'Neill spots Gabriel using the stolen credit card. He tracks Gabriel to a hostel in Dublin and finally makes the arrest. Gabriel is sentenced to 2 years in prison, but he faces more charges in France for stealing from hotels there. He's temporarily released in France, but like clockwork, Gabriel vanishes again. A few years later, Gabriel is caught again, this time by a customs officer at a gas station in Vermont after illegally entering the U.S. He's sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. After serving his time, Gabriel is arrested again, this time in a hotel in Hong Kong. He's also arrested in France for yet another hotel robbery, stealing over $200,000 worth of jewelry and cash. Gabriel is sentenced to 15 months in prison but is eventually released. His current whereabouts are unknown, but my guess? He's probably still out there scheming and pulling off more hotel heists.